Hi, today I want to talk about using simple control voltage shapes to inscribe rhythm and legibility on unrelated sounds. Here we have the Tape Microsound Music Machine. The morphogene, of course, has some sound playing back. And one thing I really like to do is turn up the gene size a bit and scan just a very small part of the splice with the slide control. This is fun to do. Almost any sound has a lot of unknowns hiding in it. And the simple gesture of turning the knob at different speeds through larger or smaller portions of the splice lets us sort of inscribe the motion of our hand directly onto this sound. Even if it had no rhythmic relation to it originally. Now we can make that gesture in a number of ways. There is the knob, of course. Let's also try a similar gesture with the zero control pressure CV, being sure to attenuate it heavily. I'm setting the attenuator to about 1230. And I can make this gesture over and over, and the result is not exactly the same because of differing start points in these looped genes. But it is recognizable as being the same gesture. And the same thing will continue to be true even if I change, say, the gene size or morph controls. Or even organize to a different splice and hear a different sound altogether. The common element from one sound to the next is not necessarily now the sound at all, it's the gesture. Gestures were very important to composers of acousmatic music at the GRM in the 60s and 70s. Since this music defied traditional notation due to its sonic complexity, gestures and movements became a point of focus instead. The phrase acousmatic music, at face value, implies a music whose origin cannot be seen. And that does open up some possibilities for what we consider to be gestures. If gesture is basically movement, but no physical movement is visible, then the literal movement is not as important as that movement be audible and legible. For example, I create a movement by touching this touch plate, But a similar movement could be created over and over again using a cycling channel of maths. Repetition of this movement creates a shape that in many cases is not dependent on the shape of the sound it's modulating. I have the freedom to alter other parameters in the system to some degree without losing the shape of the gesture. If we like, we can tie this gesture to other elements using the EOC output as a clock for the zero control and or the mimeophone. Now, for demonstration purposes, this was a simple repetitive gesture, and there's no reason to limit yourself to simple repetitive gestures. But I find that it's often worth it to work my way through all the possibilities in these simple gestures first, and then build them up in complexity when I'm ready.